Mr. Westerman, seek recognition.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to House Resolution 879, I call up H.J. Res. 131 and ask for its immediate consideration in the House.
Clerk will report the title of the joint resolution.
House Joint Resolution 131, joint resolution providing for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8 of Title 5 United States Code of the rules submitted by the Bureau of Land Management relating to Coastal Plain Oil and Gas Leasing Program, record of decision.
Pursuant to House Resolution 879, the joint resolution is considered read. The joint resolution shall be debatable for 1 hour, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Natural Resources or their respective designees. The gentleman from Arkansas, Mr. Westerman, and the gentleman from California, Mr. Huffman, will each control 30 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Arkansas. Mr. Westerman, you are recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members be given 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and to include extraneous material on H.J. Res. 131.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
I rise today in support of H.J. Res. 131, which would repeal a Biden-era record of decision, or a ROD, restricting oil and gas production on 1.16 million acres within the 1002 area of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, also known as ANWR. The 1002 area of ANWR was specifically set aside by Congress for its oil and gas potential and estimated to hold anywhere between 4.25 and 11.8 billion barrels of recoverable oil. Prior to the passage of the Working Families Tax Cut Law, which requires 4 lease sales to be held over a 10-year period, Congress had previously mandated energy leasing in the area, an action that had the support of local North Slope communities and native villages. In fact, last Congress, we held a bipartisan legislative hearing on H.R. 6285, Alaska's Right to Produce Act, where we heard from tribal representatives, including Inupiat leadership from the native village of Kaktovik, the only indigenous tribal community within ANWR. In that hearing, Doreen Levitt, Director of Natural Resources for the Inupiat community of the Arctic Slope, said, and I quote, "The North Slope Inupiat live in one of the most remote areas of the country, with none of their communities connected by a permanent road system to each other or to municipalities in the state, making private and public investment very costly, so it is up to their people to seek out opportunities and partners to strengthen their regional economy," end quote. Instead of working with Arctic Slope communities to create economic opportunities, the Biden-era ROD further limited the economic prospects available to those in the region, reducing investment and cutting off essential new infrastructure that would support resource development. During President Trump's first administration, consistent with federal law and local voices, the Department of Interior finalized plans to make all 1.56 million acres of the coastal plain available to oil and gas leasing. Lamentably, in 2024, the Biden administration disregarded local tribal voices and reversed course, implementing a new record of decision that chose the most restrictive alternative, making available the minimal amount of acreage for energy leasing. The Biden administration also included energy prohibitive stipulations in the ROD designed to undermine energy lease sales in the 1002 area. These provisions were horrifically successful, as the last lease sale held received no bids. The Biden administration's anti-energy decisions limit economic opportunities for local Alaskans and Alaska natives living within ANWR. Congress must move to repeal the Biden-era ROD that runs counter to congressional intent and unfairly reduces economic opportunities in the region. I want to thank Representative Begich for his work on H.J. Res. 131 so we can restore common sense to the management of ANWR's vast resources and again unleash American energy. I urge my colleagues to support this legislation, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Arkansas reserves. The gentleman from California, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I strongly oppose H.J. Res. 131. The Congressional Review Act resolution here would overturn BLM's Coastal Plain Oil and Gas Leasing Program record of decision. My Republican colleagues are once again pursuing policies that expand our nation's carbon pollution and expose our communities to future disasters. Not only would this legislation grant access to one of the most ecologically sensitive and, yes, incredibly difficult regions to drill, but it would reverse significant strides that Democrats have made to protect lands that tribal nations have occupied since time immemorial. This misguided bill would lock in oil and gas development in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, an area known to the Gwich'in people as the sacred place where life begins. The coastal plain is the heart of the porcupine caribou herd's calving grounds. It hosts nearly 200 migratory bird species annually, connecting the rest of the United States and also the world to this cradle of our natural heritage. Equally vital, the 9,000-strong Gwich'in nation, whose subsistence and culture depend on the caribou herd, reside along the herd's migratory route, making any disruption not only a threat to biodiversity, but also an assault on indigenous livelihoods and traditions. Let me read to you a quote from the executive director of the Gwich'in Steering Committee, Kristen Moreland. She says, quote, "It is unthinkable that our congressional decision makers continue to push to exploit the coastal plain of the Arctic Refuge for oil and gas drilling." She continues, "We rely on the caribou, not only spiritually and culturally, but for our survival and subsistence. This action from D.C. is an insult to the Gwich'in people and ignores those realities," end quote. Sovereign Inupiat for Living Arctic also oppose this proposal. They said, and I quote, "Many Alaska Native communities are already..."
This isn't about Democrats versus Republicans. It's about real girls who were hurt, abused, and trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein and the powerful people who surrounded him. One of those girls was Virginia Roberts Giuffre. She was forced to stay silent for years, but today I want to let her speak in her own words. Virginia was just 16 when she started working at Mar-a-Lago, where she met Epstein's recruiter, Ghislaine Maxwell. She writes in her memoir, Maxwell says she knows a wealthy man, longtime Mar-a-Lago member, she says, who's looking for a massage therapist to travel with him. My lack of experience doesn't concern her a bit. I'm sure you'd be terrific, she insists, looking me up and down. Will you come for an interview? Even today, more than 20 years later, I remember how excited I felt. Could my dreams of becoming a professional masseuse be on their way to coming true so quickly? Something about how this proper, well-spoken lady focused on me made me seem that possible. I told her I had to get permission from my dad first, that I really wanted to come. That wealthy man, we all know now, was Jeffrey Epstein. And that moment began years of trafficking and abuse for Virginia. Later in her memoir, she writes, I was about to spend more than 2 years in Epstein and Maxwell's orbit. My job, to do whatever they asked, whenever they asked it. There were no bars on the windows or locks on the doors, but I was a prisoner trapped in an invisible cage. Those are the words of a child who should have been safe, a child who should have been safe from predators like Epstein and Maxwell. She talks about how Epstein gave her money to rent an apartment so her parents wouldn't question why she had to go to meet Epstein's clients in the middle of the night. Here's the thing. Epstein did not act alone. He had help. And the men who helped him target and abuse young girls and protected him are still out there walking around like nothing happened. This can't just be another news cycle or another Tuesday. There needs to be justice. We owe it to Virginia and every survivor of Epstein's to finally get the full truth of how this happened and who allowed it to happen. That's why I'm going to again call for the full release of the Epstein files. Let's bring this evidence out, stop the secrecy, the cover-ups, and the protecting of these elites. The American people deserve the truth, and Virginia deserves transparency, accountability, and healing. At a press conference earlier today, another Epstein survivor said, today we stand in a moment that will decide whether our government belongs to the American people or to those who prey on them. We owe it to her and to every survivor to choose accountability and release the files. I yield back.
The clerk will report the motion to invoke cloture.
Cloture motion. We, the undersigned senators, in accordance with the provisions of Rule 22 of the Standing Rules of the Senate, do hereby move to bring to a close debate on the nomination of Ho Ni of Alabama to be a member of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, signed by 17 senators.
Under the previous order, the mandatory quorum call under Rule 22 has been waived. The question is it the sense of the Senate that debate on the nomination of Honey of Alabama to be a member of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission shall be brought to a close? The yeas and nays are mandatory under the rule. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Also Brooks, Ms. Baldwin, Mr. Banks, Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Blackburn, Mr. Blumenthal, Ms. Blunt Rochester, Mr. Booker, Mr. Bozeman, Mrs. Britt, Mr. Budd, Ms. Cantwell, Mrs. Capito, Mr. Cassidy, Ms. Collins, Mr. Coons, Mr. Cornyn, Ms. Cortez Masto, Mr. Cotton, Mr. Kramer, Mr. Crapo, Mr. Cruz, Mr. Curtis.
Yes.
Mr. Daines.
I'm just good looking. That's okay.
Wait. Ms. Duckworth, Mr. Durbin, Ms. Ernst, Mr. Fetterman, Mrs. Fisher, Mr. Gallego, Mrs. Gillibrand, Mr. Graham, Mr. Grassley, Mr. Haggerty, Ms. Hassan, Mr. Hawley, Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Hickenlooper, Ms. Hirono, Mr. Hoven, Mr. Husted, Mrs. Hyde-Smith, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Justice, Mr. Kane, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Kim, Mr. King, Ms. Klobuchar, Mr. Langford, Mr. Lee, Mr. Lujan, Ms. Lummis, Mr. Markey, Mr. Marshall, Mr. McConnell, Mr. McCormick, Mr. Merkley, Mrs. Moody, Mr. Moran, Mr. Moreno, Mr. Mullen, Ms. Markowski, Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Murray, Mr. Ossoff, Mr. Padilla, Mr. Paul, Mr. Peters, Mr. Reed, Mr. Ricketts, Mr. Risch, Ms. Rosen, Mr. Rounds, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schatz, Mr. Schiff, Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Schumer, Mr. Scott of Florida, Mr. Scott of South Carolina, Mrs. Shaheen, Mr. Sheehy, Ms. Slotkin, Ms. Smith, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Thune, Mr. Tillis, Mr. Tuberville, Mr. Van Hollen, Mr. Warner, Mr. Warnock, Ms. Warren, Mr. Welch, Mr. Whitehouse, Mr. Wicker, Mr. Wyden, Mr. Young. Senators voting in the affirmative: Banks, Bozeman, Curtis, Graham, Husted, Johnson, Justice, McCormick, Moody, Moreno, Paul, Risch, Rounds, Schmidt. Mr. Marshall? Aye. Senators voting in the negative: Gallego, Kane, Kim, Lujan, Markey, Merkley. Mrs. Britt, aye. Mr. Reed, aye. Mr. Tuberville, aye. Mr. McConnell, aye. Mr. Coons, aye. Ms. Rosen. Ms. Rosen, no. Ms. Hassan, no. Ms. Duckworth, aye. Mr. Scott of Florida, aye. Ms. Also Brooks, no. Mr. Murphy, no. Mr. Crapo, aye. Ms. Ernst, aye. Mr. Lee, aye. Mr. Budd, aye. Mr. Cassidy, aye. Mr. Booker, no. Mr. Tillis, aye. Mr. Wicker, aye. Mr. Warner, aye. Mrs. Fisher, aye. Mr. Peters, no. Mr. Grassley, aye. Mr. Bennett, no. Mr. Kramer, aye. Mr. King, aye. Mr. Moran, aye. Mr. Sheehy, aye.
I was just thinking, you don't look at day over 39, but apparently that's not true. Oh, no, I can't see
Mr.
that.
Wyden, no. Mr. Heinrich, aye. Ms. Hirono, no. Mr. Young, aye. Ms. Smith, no. Mr. Padilla, aye. Mr. Kennedy, aye. Mr. Hickenlooper, No. Ms. Blunt Rochester, Ms. Blunt Rochester, no. Mrs. Shaheen, Mrs. Shaheen, no. Ms. Collins, Ms. Collins, aye. Mr. Schiff, no. Mr. Langford, aye. Ms. Cantwell, no. Mrs. Murray, no. Ms. Baldwin, no. Mr. Whitehouse, aye. Mrs. Blackburn, aye. Mr. Ricketts, aye. Ms. Warren, no. Mrs. Gillibrand, no. Ms. Cortez Masto,
On this vote, the yeas are 65, the nays are 32, and the motion is agreed to. The clerk will report the nomination.
Nomination, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, Ho Nie of Alabama to be a member.
Unanimous consent that the Senate resume legislative session being a period of morning business with senators permitted to speak therein for up to 10 minutes each.
Without objection.
And I ask unanimous consent that the Foreign Relations Committee be discharged from further consideration of H.R. 1512 and the Senate proceed to its immediate consideration.
The clerk will report.
H.R. 1512, an act to amend the Taiwan Assurance Act of 2020, and so forth.
Without objection, the committee is discharged, and the Senate will proceed.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the bill be considered read a third time and passed, and that the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to consideration of S.Res. 501, which is at the desk.
The clerk will report.
Senate Resolution 501, recognizing National Native American Heritage Month and celebrating the heritages and cultures of Native Americans and the contributions of Native Americans to the United States.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, and that the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent the Senate proceed to the consideration of S.Res. 502, which is at the desk.
The clerk will report.
Senate Resolution 502, recognizing November 2025 as National Family Caregivers Month.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, and that the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that when the Senate completes its business today, it stand adjourned until 10 a.m. on Wednesday, November the 19th, that following the prayer and pledge, the journal proceedings be approved today at the morning hour be deemed expired, the time for the 2 leaders be reserved for their use later in the day, and the Senate be in a period of morning business with senators permitted to speak therein for up to 10 minutes each. Further, the post-cloture time on the Nye nomination be expired, and the Senate vote on confirmation of the nomination at noon tomorrow. And if confirmed, the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table, and the President be immediately notified of the Senate's action. I further ask that the Senate recess following disposition of the Nye nomination until 2:15 p.m. to allow for the weekly conference meetings. Finally, at 2:15 p.m., Senator Lummis be recognized for up to 5 minutes prior to making a motion to proceed to SJ Res 89.
Without objection.
Mr. President, if there's no further business to come before the Senate, I ask that it stand adjourned under the previous order.
Senate stands adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning.
क्या हुआ? आज फिर बॉस से बहस? वो तो नहीं उल्लू का पट्टा। मेरी मानो तो फायर कर दो उसे।
Can't do. अब क्यों?
मालूम है, एक अच्छा बॉस तो नहीं बना, पर एक अच्छा डैड तो बन ही सकता हूं। I'm sorry.
Candia, lifestyle jewelry.
So you just mentioned that you want to learn Python. So do not learn Python in manual way in 2025 because learning Python in manual way will take you like 6 months of your time. On top of that, you will be ultra non-productive in Python because when you use AI inside your Python, when you use AI tools to do your Python coding, you will be saving upwards of 95% of your time while you're coding, while you're debugging, while you're building web apps, and while you're scraping as well, right? So for tackling this same problem, we found like 10 useful tools for day-to-day Python development and Python work. So we have developed a program which is like absolutely beginner friendly. Even if you have zero knowledge in Python, you can join this program, and in 30 days you will be becoming pro of Python, that also using AI. You will be not becoming a Python developer, you will be becoming a 10x Python developer. And the best part, like we have democratized this program, so this 30-day program is just for ₹199. Can you believe that?
So, wedding season के क्या plans है? Sangeet night done right. Indo fusion, perfect for the after party. हर पल a different you. हर पल on trend with Amazon. Amazon, हर पल fashionable.
To those who looked forward to what's ahead. To those who waited patiently, believing in a dream. Every dream you held close, every moment you imagined. Your trust has carried us forward. Your patience has brought us here. And now, to you we say, yes, we're coming. Stay tuned. Gores, launching now.
Administration, let me repeat that, after 4 years of silence on this matter about Jeffrey Epstein, House Democrats are now demanding transparency and accountability surrounding Jeffrey Epstein and his associates. While their fake outrage is clearly just another disgusting attempt to smear President Trump, House Republicans are taking this matter seriously and are working toward delivering the much-needed transparency and accountability that the American people deserve.
This resolution is accountability, page 1. During the House Oversight Committee's ongoing investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, emails obtained by a congressional subpoena, that's right, it was the congressional subpoena by the House Oversight Committee, not the discharge petition that just got voted on, but this was the Oversight Committee's congressional subpoena, has brought to light that in 2019, Delegate Stacey Plaskett coordinated her line of questioning with Jeffrey Epstein in real time over text messages during an Oversight Committee hearing featuring testimony from Michael Cohen. Now, who is Michael Cohen? Michael Cohen was the disgraced former attorney of President Donald Trump. She was asking input from Jeffrey Epstein on how to best question Cohen, and Cohen was himself at that time a convicted felon from 2018. So now that Republicans are exposing Democrat ties to Jeffrey Epstein and his vile crimes, the other side of the aisle has flipped. They apparently no longer want transparency or accountability. Why? Because they don't want the truth. They want to weaponize a serious matter into a distraction, all in an attempt to take down President Trump and to hurt his administration and what he's doing to make America great again. The actions taken by Delegate Plaskett reflect poorly on the House, and this body needs to hold her accountable. I urge all of my colleagues to vote to adopt this resolution to show the American people that those who colluded with Mr. Epstein, including members of the House, will be held accountable, and this resolution is the beginning of that. I thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields.
To the chair.
Speaker, I reserve. Gentleman from South Carolina reserves. Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Proud to yield 1 minute to the distinguished Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries.
The Minority Leader is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the distinguished gentleman, my good friend from the great state of Maryland, the ranking Democrat on the Judiciary Committee, for yielding. I rise today in strong opposition. This resolution, this effort to censure Delegate Plaskett, to rip away her membership on the Intel Committee, is nothing more than a political stunt by a desperate, failed candidate for governor, trying to pander to the people back in South Carolina. Nothing more than that. You want to make the statement about who's brought disgrace to the House? The actions of this House Republican majority have brought disgrace to the House of Representatives from day one of this presidency. The reality is, if you want to talk about fealty to the Constitution and things of that nature, the House is a separate and co-equal branch of government. You don't seem to understand that. You functioned from the very beginning of your so-called majority, Mr. Speaker, not as a check and balance on an out-of-control administration, but as a reckless rubber stamp for Donald Trump's extreme agenda, and you are failing the American people. You failed to keep your core promise. Your core promise to the American people was that you were going to lower costs on day one. Costs haven't gone down here in the United States of America. Costs have gone up. The Trump economy is a complete and total failure. It's a disaster. The American people are hurting. And so every week, you come to the House floor now that you've returned from your 7-week taxpayer-funded vacation and come up with another stunt to try to distract the American people. Or perhaps you were ordered by your puppet master, Donald Trump, who wants to distract the American people today because his effort to suppress the Jeffrey Epstein files has failed spectacularly. We believe in transparency. We believe in accountability. We believe in due process. That's the opposite of what is happening on the floor today. And let me be very clear about Stacey Plaskett. She's a woman of great intelligence and a woman of great integrity. And she deserves better than what she's receiving from House Republican extremists. She deserves the opportunity to be heard. She deserves due process. She deserves the ability to make her case, not to be prosecuted by petty foggers, playing lawyer on the floor of the House of Representatives. Google that if you don't know what it means. the so-called Freedom Caucus want to lecture us about proceeding at this moment. The actions that you continue to engage in will have consequences. Consequences today, consequences tomorrow, consequences next week, consequences next year, and certainly consequences when the American people throw this House Republican majority out in the aftermath of the election next November. Be very careful about the extreme actions that you continue to engage in. Now, it's extraordinary to me, week after week, censure after censure, and I wonder, is it just coincidence that the last 3 censures we've had on the House floor happened to involve, first, you tried to censure LaMonica MacGyver. And then, Mr. Speaker, Republicans tried to censure Ilhan Omar. And now we're on the floor and you're trying to censure Stacey Plaskett. What is it exactly that those 3 individuals have in common? House Republicans are going to have to answer for the things, the extreme things that you continue to do. And the American people know. This is a phony majority. It's a fake majority. It's not a real majority. Republicans aren't doing anything to make life better for the American people. And that's why we're on the floor right now. There's nothing that House Republicans can do to disgrace Stacey Plaskett because House Republicans continue to disgrace themselves. And so whatever happens later on this evening, the American people will hear from Delegate Plaskett beyond this, making her case. The people of the Virgin Islands, I'm confident, will continue to stand behind her. And we will never be lectured on issues related to accountability and transparency and principle and ethics from this group of extreme House Republicans who continue to visit a national nightmare on the American people, bending the knee to a wannabe king, doing real harm in real time, and at the end of the day, your time is coming as well. I yield back.
Chairman yields.
Hey, how much time do we have, Mr. Speaker?
Gentleman has 4.5 minutes. 3.5 minutes. All members are again reminded, including Minority Leader, to direct your comments to the chair. All members are again instructed, including Minority Leader, to refrain from engaging in personalities towards the President. The gentleman from Maryland seeks recognition.
No, we'll reserve.
Gentleman from Maryland reserves. Gentleman from South Carolina.
Speaker, I find it interesting that the Minority Leader mentioned that, we got a not really a majority. I will tell you, 77 million people are a majority. They rendered the consequences to elect the president that has revived this country from a disaster 4 years under the Biden administration. Let's go back under a little bit of history here about the hearing. The messages show that Plaskett texted Epstein before the hearings that started that day at 7:55. She texted him, the sex offender, the predator on the children she says she protects. They had comments like she told Ms. Plaskett talk about his grades. She mentioned that she had a great-looking outfit. This is from Mr. Epstein. In 10:40, she broadcast a feed cut to Ms. Plaskett showing her moving her mouth as if she was chewing something. And Ms. Plaskett mentioned that she had multiple texts. Well, according to the records, and I don't know how many of her texts came from those convicted of felonies, but on at 2:25, Epstein sent 2:25 minutes before Plaskett began questioning Cohen at 2:28. Epstein messaged back, "Good work," at 2:34, 1 minute after Plaskett finished her question to Cohen. So the whole 5 minutes was pretty much conducted under the direction of a convicted pedophile. And this dialogue, Ms. Plaskett was reached by phone Thursday. Plaskett declined to answer questions about the text messages and directed all inquiries to congressional staff. Plaskett's chief of staff said Thursday she was not in a position to confirm or not whether the Congresswoman was texting with Mr. Epstein at the hearing. She did not respond to follow-up questions. Bottom line, these are facts. These are text messages. This wasn't smoke and mirrors. So it's interesting that they're taking that tact. But, Ms. Speaker, how much time do I have left?
Gentleman has 6.5 minutes remaining.
I reserve.
Gentleman from South Carolina reserves. Gentleman from Maryland.
I'm yielding 1 minute to the representative from New York, Ms. Clark.
Gentlelady is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today on behalf of the Congressional Black Caucus, the conscience of the Congress, in strong opposition to this resolution. This resolution is a blatantly partisan, shameless attack. As we sit here today, Donald Trump is still the single person in this country with the authority and the ability to deliver justice to survivors and truth to the American people by just releasing the files. So instead of answering why Donald Trump chooses every single day not to release the Epstein files, they're pointing fingers at this side of the aisle. Mr. Speaker, unlike the president, Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett has committed no crime, violated no rule, and broken no promises. There has been no investigation, no due process, no inquiry into whether the Congresswoman had any connection whatsoever to Epstein's despicable and disgusting criminal conduct. This resolution would have us remove a capable and hardworking member of one of the most serious working committees in this body on the basis of a conversation from more than 6 years ago, which broke no rules, and has no connection to any criminal activity. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this partisan resolution, this sham, and I yield back.
Gentlewoman's time has expired.
We reserve.
Gentleman from Maryland reserves. Gentleman from South Carolina.
Speaker, I reserve.
Gentleman from South Carolina reserves.
And we're prepared to close.
It's closed.
Yeah, I'm prepared to close.
All right. Gentleman from South Carolina is prepared to close. Maryland is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I want to start by addressing the young people who appear to be in the audience this evening, because I'm afraid some of my arguments are lost on some of our colleagues across the aisle suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. It seems to have completely warped their minds today, and they're not thinking clearly about the Constitution or about the rule of law. But the young people here will recognize, if they read this resolution, immediately what's wrong with it, because it's replete with phrases like this, that this one incident that they're referring to raises serious questions about the judgment and the integrity and the fitness to serve. Well, I think that's absurd, but in any event, if you think it raises serious questions, presumably you would want the answers to those questions. But you don't get answers by rushing to judgment and turning the whole process upside down. This resolution starts by saying we censure her, we remove her from committee, and the very next component of it says we direct the Committee on Ethics to conduct an investigation. That is the opposite of due process, and I hope at least future generations will understand that's not how we hold